Hello. So I get asked all the time, how long does the process to sell a house take? How long does it take, right? In long, wherever you are, anywhere in New York. And the question is, how are you selling it, right? So there are two main ways to sell it that I recommend. One is listing it with an agent, right? We can list the properties for people. The other way is selling it to an investor. The way I don't recommend is FSBO, for sale by owner. I've spoken about that before. I think it's a terrible idea. So let's talk about the two ways. If you are listing it for sale with an agent, and that really is usually the way to get the most money, then you have got to figure from the time you list it to the time you close on the sale is 3 to 4 months. Now, people get shocked when I say that, so let me explain what that means. When you list a property, we just listed something, we're getting into contract quickly, but it's still going to take, quickly in New York, is going to take probably 2 to 3 weeks, right? So we listed something 2 weeks ago, accepted offers for a few days, we received offers, we accepted the offers, and now the contract gets sent from the seller's attorney to the buyer. Buyer is supposed to sign it today, it gets sent to the seller has to sign it. You know, it's rare that it's going to take less than 2 or 3 weeks to happen, just because the attorneys go back and forth over stupidity. So really, to find a buyer, get into contract, on average is going to take about a month. Now, that is unheard of in other states where it takes about a minute, but that's how it works in most parts of New York where attorneys are involved. It'll take about a month, even as hot as your area is, and you know, people say, oh, I'm going to sell my property in a minute, or I'm going to put a sign out and I'm going to sell it in 5 seconds. That's just not how things work in New York, right? It'll take about a month to find a buyer, to deal with all the offers we get, choose the offer. We just had a situation where we had a listing. One offer was better than the others. We chose that offer. 2 days later, that offer said he's not taking the property. Something else happened. So we go back to the early offers. Some of those offers are gone. It takes time, right? So it'll take about a month to get into contract. Now, it could take 2 weeks, but on average, probably close to a month. And then most buyers are going to take 2 to 3 months to get a mortgage, right? To get their financing. Now, I've had situations where it's taken less. I've had situations where it takes more. So you've got to understand that 3 to 4 months is the average time that it's going to take to close. Now, if you go to MLS or listings, you'll see DOM, which is days on market. Days on market is the time between when you list a property and when you put it under contract, right? Sometimes days on market is smaller, sometimes days on market is more. But here's the truth. The truth is, it is, a quick days on market is, you'll see sometimes you'll see 7 days, 10 days, 12 days. But even if it's 30 days or under, that's quick. And then is really the 60 to 90 day period where the borrower gets their mortgage. Now, if you are listing it and going through that standard process, you will have the risk that somebody will not close. Now, it doesn't happen often, but it does happen. I was in the mortgage business for 17 years, and I can tell you on probably 100 occasions, I got a call from someone that said, I changed my mind, I don't want to buy this house. Just give me a denial for the mortgage so I can get out of the contract. It's very easy to deny somebody for a mortgage, right? Documents expire all the time. It's really a piece of cake. And you got to understand that a standard, a standard buyer to seller to buyer transaction has a mortgage contingency, which is in effect a get out of contract free card. It's true. So that is a possibility, and then the process takes longer. It's happened to me on a bunch of occasions. I hate it and shouldn't expect it to happen, but it can happen. But a standard transaction with no complications will take 3 to 4 months. Now, if you are selling a property to an investor, like me or any other investor, then the timeline is completely up to you. So I can close quickly, right? I've closed in really quickly in New York is probably about 2 weeks, right? Because it takes that long to get title. Or I can close as long as you want. So I had a situation recently, I went to contract with somebody. She then got terminal cancer, unfortunately, and didn't want to leave, and I waited, and she passed away, and I bought the property from her kids. That happens too. So I'll wait as long as you need, within reason. And the reason why people sell to an investor, understand, one of the main reasons why people sell to an investor is because they don't want to be on a buyer's timeline. So that can be either because they need to sell quickly, which happens occasionally, or because they want to sell slowly, as I just told you. I bought more houses for people that want to know that they're in contract, but don't have a place to go and want to the peace of mind to know that they can take as long as they want to find a place to go. So I recently bought a house from someone who's building a house in the Carolinas, and the builder told him it was going to take a year, and that year ended a few months ago, and the guy keeps delaying. And he just doesn't want to be on a buyer's timeline in a situation where the builder may take longer. And I told him I would wait, right? But the bottom line is when you sell to an investor, you are giving up some of the proceeds. You're going to sell it for a discount. But you do that in exchange for the certainty and convenience that a investor provides for you. So the certainty of knowing that the price that I give you is the price, it's not going to change. The certainty of knowing that I'll close whenever you want, and that I don't have any contingencies in my contract. And then the convenience of not having a million people come into the house on 100 different occasions, the convenience of being able to probably leave a lot of stuff that you don't have to clean it, that's an advantage. The convenience of not having, or the convenience of not having an inspector come in and say you need to fix this, an appraiser come in and saying you have to fix this. Some guy's walking by my car. Guy's wearing gloves. Okay, so that's why you sell to an investor. But the process with an investor can be as quick as two weeks, and it can be as long as 2 years sometimes. But again, you are giving up some money to an investor for that convenience. Now, just to go back, the reason why I don't recommend for sale by owner, why I think it's a huge mistake, is really twofold. First of all, you're not showing your property to as many people as you think you are. I would say somewhere between 60 and 70% of the time that I sell a property in New York, the buyer is represented by an agent. Understand that a buyer's agent goes to a buyer and says, I will find you a house and you don't have to pay me a cent. Because in 99% of the situations, they're going to look for a property that's listed on the MLS, and the listing agent is going to share that commission with the buyer's agent. If you sell a property for sale by owner, every single buyer's agent, so 60 to 70% of the people that are looking for houses, are not going to bring are not going to see your house, right? Because a buyer's agent is never going to show his client, even if your house is perfect for his client, he's not going to show his buyer your property because he's not going to get paid. Now you say, well, why? He could just get paid by the buyer. In almost every situation, a buyer's agent has told his client, you're not going to pay me. For him to go, hey, I have one property to show you, but if you buy this one, you're going to have to pay me, is not a conversation that most buyer's agents want to have. So the first reason is you're probably cutting off 70% of the people. Now, people who listed, they throw it on Zillow and they go, well, everybody looks on Zillow. Guess what? Most people don't look on Zillow. If most people look for properties on Zillow, then 70% of the transactions wouldn't happen with a buyer's agent, right? So just because you look for properties a certain way doesn't mean that most buyers do. So you're cutting yourself off a huge portion of the buyers, and you're usually going to get significantly less money by allowing your property to be seen by such a small percentage of the buyers that are looking. That's number one. Number two is you may have a number in your head. I want $600,000 for this property. And you may get it, and you may be leaving a lot of money on the table. I just listed a property, and we got $100,000 over asking for it. $100,000. Now, there is no way in hell that we would have got that if that property went for sale by owner. Not a chance, right? We happened to find that one buyer who just missed out on 3 properties, came over and gave me a super strong offer, obviously, and he got it. That just wouldn't happen. So you'll never know if you sell your property for the most money. If you list it with an agent, you know you got the most money for it. So it's very important to me that people understand why FSBO by for sale by owner is a bad idea. And I buy a lot of properties that are failed FSBOs. So somebody listed by themselves, couldn't get a buyer for it, and then they come to me and they're dropping it at a discount. And in some of those situations, right, then they're desperate for whatever reason. There's a time constraint, there's some issue. In a lot of those situations, if they would have sold it with an agent, they would have made more money, but they don't have the time. So I would say FSBO, for sale by owner, is always a bad idea. And I'm telling people, oh, my market's so hot, I can put out a sign, I'll have 1,000 people. You may have 1,000 people, but there could have been 5,000 people that could have seen that house if you listed it with an agent. And you'll never know if you got the most money for it because you got your price, you're happy, you move on. You're not having anybody negotiate for you, and it's a mistake. So if your situation where you're selling is that your house is in very good condition and there are no municipal issues, so open permits, open violations, and you don't have a time constraint, you really should list it with an agent. But if you have any of those issues, or you don't want people coming through your house, whatever it is, then you should sell to an investor. But never ever is there a situation where it makes even financial sense. So I know the thinking is, well, I'm going to list it for sale by owner because I'm going to save myself, this huge commission.
I would say in almost every situation you would have sold it for more with an agent. Even net price to you will be better if you list it with an agent than if you list it for sale by owner. It's just my opinion. So time frame for an investor, completely up to the seller. Whenever you want to sell it. Time frame on a regular listing, on average 3 to 4 months. I've had situations where it's been quicker, closed properties in 7 weeks, 6 weeks even. Somebody got a mortgage really fast. You might find a cash buyer, right, who doesn't need a mortgage and he wants to close in 2 weeks. It happens rarely, but it happens. And you might find somebody who's a mortgage company is jerking you around, or who needs more time, right? You get a buyer and a strong buyer, and the guy goes, I need 4 months. You might say, okay, I'll do it. So those are the basic time frames for how long it takes to sell a house in New York. I hope this was helpful. And if you have any questions, feel free to put a comment below. Thank you.